Good evening. My name is Fritz Starr. I'm, as you heard, one of the co-PIs of the COSEE. I'm here tonight to act as a moderator and hopefully get us all through 10 lightning talks in the next hour. As some of you may know, I work at the University of Washington as a physical oceanographer, and I also run this thing called the Ocean Inquiry Project, which has been an integral part of COSEE for the last four years now, almost five. Any rate, so first up tonight, we have Jim Wharton, who is relatively new to the aquarium and Seattle and COSEE OLC, but he's not new to ocean research and education. Came here from Mote Marine Lab in Florida, and tonight he's here to to tell us that somebody has to preach to the choir.
You all ready for this? All right, so good evening. I'm really excited to start out this lightning talk format. Raise your hand if you've heard that expression, preaching to the choir. We all know what that means, right? But it's never a compliment, is it? Nobody says, hey buddy, you're really preaching to that choir. Good job. Well, what I'm here to do tonight is to convince you that preaching to the choir is a perfectly acceptable and maybe even desirable way to spend some of those precious, hard-earned public outreach resources that we all guard so dearly. So recently, the aquarium collected 218 surveys from visitors on topics on ocean acidification and ocean health as part of a pilot study with the Ocean Project. Our 218 were part of a larger national sample of about 3,200 visitors to zoos and aquariums, or really rather, aquariums and science centers all across the country. So this is what we found. It turns out that people, when they arrive at the aquarium, are aware of ocean acidification, even if they don't feel terribly informed about it. They're already concerned that ocean acidification is a threat to the marine environment. They're worried about ocean acidification, worried about climate change, and understand that humans are a big, big part of it. And then what's really cool is that they actually expect to receive conservation messages during their visit. And that actually makes the visit better. Now, if you compare this research to a wider national survey, it turns out that aquarium visitors are much more aware of ocean acidification. They're much more concerned, and they are much less uninformed about ocean acidification. Nobody really knows anything. But what does that say to us? Well, to me, it suggests that we're getting really, really good at attracting people who already agree with us. And what that means is that, yes, at times, we preaching to the choir. I know it's horrible. But is it? I mean, is it really such a bad thing to preach to the choir? So, somebody has to preach to the choir, right? Well, at least one group of researchers would agree with that. In fact, they think that environmental education organizations like us, like all of us, have been defining our learning outcomes far too narrowly and are potentially ignoring the needs of one of our most important audiences. They're suggesting that we need to think a little bit more about the value of affirmation. There's a subset of our visitors, potentially a very large subset of our visitors, that come to the aquarium not to learn new things, but to have their own thinking reconfirmed. They're coming here to be around people who are of like minds. And we know that visits to zoos and aquariums, a lot of the times they're driven by the visitor and who they are, their personal identity. Those personal identities aren't forged at birth. They're developed over time. They're constantly learned and tweaked and revamped. And these folks, they're arriving already part of the choir. It's coming to zoos and aquariums. That's the way that they sort of re-up their membership. This is not really new news. Back in 2007, the Why Zoos and Aquariums Matter study, they explained to us that visitors come to zoos and aquariums with much more knowledge than we really expected. They're already convinced that they're part of the solution, and they believe deeply that zoos and aquariums have an important role to play in conservation and conservation education. The Ocean Project also talked to 22,000 people in 2009, and what they found out was that zoos and aquariums are among the most trusted sources for information on environmental issues. That doesn't mean we're the best sources necessarily, but it means that people trust us. And even more importantly, they're looking to zoos and aquariums to figure out, what can I do to help? How can I help save the oceans? Our choir is actually shouting, testify, and yet we spend a lot of time sort of wringing our hands and worrying whether we have the right people in the room. Well, what we need to do is figure out that whether you're interested in ocean science or ocean science education, we have the right people in the room. We can't focus on them to the exclusion of all others. We have important broadening impacts, goals to keep in mind. But we also can't ignore them anymore, and we've done that for too long. This is a group that is already motivated to become stewards of their marine environment. They're motivated to demonstrate some better behavior. They are willing to go out and talk to their family and friends and even the perfect strangers if you happen to be a beach naturalist. So what I say is bring on the choir. I say bring on the choir, bring on UW and NOAA and Sea Grant and all of our COSEE partners. Let the aquarium be your cathedral, and let us work together to inspire conservation of our marine environment for years to come. Thank you.